follow the normal rules of West Bath does for town meeting. Article 2. Wait a minute. Okay, Article 2. Shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Development Review Ordinance regarding application submittal deadlines be enacted? Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
There's a first and a second. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of Article 2? All those opposed? Article 2 passes. Article 3, shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments of the Land Use and Development Review Ordinances regarding a butter notification be enacted? Is there a first?
Motion to approve. Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Article 3 passes. Article 4, so an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use and Development Review Ordinances regarding signage be enacted. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Article 4 passes. Article 5, shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Development Review Ordinance regarding commercial lighting be enacted? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Does anyone else feel that the lights down at the parking lot at the bottom of the hill for BRW are a nuisance to traffic traveling toward Bath?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's not part of this amendment.
It's not, I thought the lighting was about shielding.
That's
Right.
existing, right?
She is correct, the lighting ordinance is about shielding it, but this would not be the forum you would need to really go to the town and put in a complaint and have
Okay.
the code enforcement officer look into it.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of Article 5? All those opposed? Article 5 passes. Article 6, shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use Ordinance regarding lot coverage and frontage standards for business, commercial, and non-residential use be enacted? Is there a motion?
Motion to postpone indefinitely.
Second. Discussion.
I feel like I step away from my position on the board. I'm concerned that that this article was entered into the warrant too quickly, and that we may be making a too hasty decision. I'm concerned that this may end up being something that is not to the advantage of the developers of Wing Farm. To me, changing those things that have to do with Wing Farm is kind of like if I sell my house to you, then I can tell you how to use my house after it's yours. The town sold the land and the rights, and there should be They should stay the way they are.
Any more discussion?
Would it help if I explained the change?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, okay. Darlene Esbrook, Chair of the Planning Board. So the change, if you look at number 3 that says lot coverage, that first paragraph that's mostly in black is what we previously had. It covered just business and commercial. The coverage really only allows 40% of the property, the lot, to be developed. You need a waiver from the planning board to go above the 40% to 60%. So that you're aware, development doesn't mean just the size of the building, it's all the pavement around it. So anything that's not grass is considered development. So in business and commercial, that made sense when you're looking at the urban development park, which is on the other side where Wing Farm is. It's for more of a industrial use. You don't have residential buildings or anything around it, so it seemed appropriate to increase that percentage of lot coverage for just that zone, for the whole UDP zone. And that is why we created sort of a copy of the first paragraph and then changed it for specifically just the urban development park itself. So that instead of in business and commercial, you have 40% coverage that can be waived to 60%. In the urban development park, you're starting out with 60% and you can have a waiver to 75%, which means that, you know, a lot this big, you can develop more within the property lines. So that's really what this was meant to do, is to make it easier for the development in the urban development park, because they had more coverage. You figure 40% is less than half the lot. So it just didn't seem like it made sense. I don't know if you guys have anything to add, or...
In other places besides Wing Farm, you worry about the reason it starts at 40 and could possibly, through discussion with the planning board, be expanded to 60, because you've got residents sometimes in,
Yes.
in the vicinity and other things that matter, where
Right.
over at Wing Farm it's kind of all by itself.
Correct. There aren't any residents over there. You're up against the industrial park that Bath has, the high school, trees, and the highway, really.
Well, and also,
And the power line. There's a power line that runs down the UDP zone also.
Wing Farm is not the only element of the urban development area. So what this does is it, in theory, levels the playing field for any future development beyond Wing Farm. They would then have the same boundaries to build to. So where the current plans provide up to a 60% development structure for Wing Farm as it was presented and sold to the owners, that now allows the other people that are not part of Wing Farm to build to that same specification.
Yeah, and Wing Farm, I think, is a little bit less than 1/3 of the acreage of the entire urban development park area. We all think of it as just where Wing Farm is, but it actually is a lot bigger than just the Wing Farm space. You know, so there's other lots up there.
Barry Kempson, do the restrictions in the sale of Wayne Farm on this topic apply to the whole UDP or just the Wayne Farm tract?
So the restrictions maybe that you're speaking of were mandated by the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, based on the stormwater design for the lots and the road within the park. So there are those restrictions, which if the owner wants to go back to the DEP, can have those waived by doing different things. It's all about the stormwater and how the water is treated coming off of the pavement in the building. So those are the types of restrictions on the development that the Wing Farm has based on their subdivision approval that went through the DEP. So there aren't restrictions, those same restrictions don't apply to the rest of the urban development park. The zoning ordinance restrictions apply to the rest of the urban development park. Does that answer?
So Wayne Farm is subject to the 40-60 concept?
If this passes, Wing Farm will be subject to the 60/75.
Yes, but.
But right now it's 40/60, yes, yes.
Yes.
Does anyone know briefly the objections to this change? I mean, you're worried about something, but I'm not sure what it is. Because it seems to be to the business's benefit. What is the deficit to the town?
That this has been entered, this particular proposal has been entered into very quickly and without very much discussion.
Oh, so we don't know what deficits might come up.
And we also have had, over the years, since the current owner purchased it, there have been any number of times when the purchase agreement has been challenged in various ways. And I would like to see us get all of those questions resolved before we enter into other things. At this point, it seems to me that the wind farm stands on its own, and I don't see any reason why it can't continue to stand on its own until we've had an opportunity to really study what the questions are and to really dig into the documents so that we don't have to discuss wind farm anymore.
You're tired of it already.
This is not just for Wing Farm though. That's why I
Right,
think you need to
right.
look at it as urban development, of which Wing Farm is
Well,
part of that.
Has there been much interest in the other lots within that zoning area?
I don't have that information. I don't
The
know.
solar farm was on the urban development park land. Someone came forward and
Yes,
talking
I
about a
know.
solar farm,
Right.
and that was partially on the urban development park land.
Partially.
That was from a person who had no access to the area. It was a purely theoretical discussion at that time.
And they haven't come back
No,
yet.
no.
Jerry mentioned, and I think if you look at the Bath city ordinance, I think you would see that it's probably in line with what we're trying to do here too. If you look at any of those lots in the industrial park, they're completely developed, like there's no spots on them, like where the storage spot is, where the Dreams dance is, like those are 100%.
They're probably at least 80, because they
Yeah.
still have to do stormwater through the DEP too, so I mean, there's only so high you can go.
But if you just look at the rest of the industrial park, I think we're just kind of trying to match what Bath is doing. I don't think it's anything off the charts if you look at the rest of the industrial park in there.
Mr. Dudzik, can I put you on the spot?
Sure. So Eric does it, my wife Kathleen, we own the industrial park currently. Wing Farm, West Bath Wing Farm Industrial Park, we bought from the town. Currently, when we purchased it with a set of plans. The plans have already gone through DEP, through the town planning board, everyone's accepted them, on and on. So these are approved plans, ready to go. If our plans work with the current ordinance, the way it is written right now, even though it seems a little silly that, because some of the lots are, I believe all the lots are under 60% development with the amount of green space and so forth that's left on the lot. But it does seem a little funny to have to go to the planning board where every lot is developed over 40%. I actually have to ask the planning board to look at this and say, will you allow me to develop this lot to the plans that you gave me when we purchased the property? So it does seem a little funny to have to do that through the planning board process. Other than that, our current lots, I would have to go back to the DEP and we'd have to renegotiate everything. And to get to the 75%, I can't currently do that with any of our lots. None of our lots are designed with plans that we have with stormwater permits and so forth that are already all in place. All we're looking to do is design and build to what's on the set of plans that we have. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but currently I can work. Currently, our laws work with the current land use code, but it does add an extra step going through the planning board process of actually having to ask to go up to the 60%, where we're already written that way, or drawn that way. I do understand that this is, probably something that will help the rest of the park at some point when that gets developed.
If I understand what you just said, that the plans that were given to you that were part of what you were buying,
Just
said you could go up to 60%.
all of them are even a little less than 60%, but yeah, over 40, over 40%. So that's the weird part, is that the code says you have to ask if you're gonna go over 40, but in fact, we have a set of approved plans that everything's over 40.
I think too, what happened with the DEP when they designed it so that you could go to the maximum of the waiver
I agree.
to do that, because again, 40 is not great for an industrial anything. So I think they designed it so you could go to the 60, asking for waivers just a formality or regular one of the meetings, not extra meetings, not extra things. So I think that's why you're at 60, otherwise you'd be at 40, and that isn't worth
As a business owner and a park owner, this wordage doesn't bother me. I think it's fine either way. I certainly don't have a problem with the first option. And then if the part, the urban development part of it doesn't bother me at all. We're not offended by either one of these. Or necessarily very affected by the second one.
So are you saying that you're all right if we don't approve this part change?
My understanding with the planning board is that we
Either
have
way.
a path forward either way.
Either way, yeah, it's not a problem. And this was really looking at not Wing Farm, but the whole thing as an industrial park and a development for the town, and that 40% up to 60% is just not really adequate with a lot of places, so.
And I agree with that.
And it
Moving
just
forward,
isn't-
it doesn't really help, sorry, I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
I don't think it helps our park at all, but moving forward, it certainly might help the town.
You know the total acreage out there in that urban development
What-
zone?
Well, that's a
zone
really
that-
good question.
Ours is 26 acres.
Yeah, I don't, but if I had to guess, I would say it's at least 90 acres.
Yeah, I would say.
Probably 90 or 100. They went down the property line, and then there's a high tension line that kind of parallels it. It makes kind of a trapezoid, and it's in between that space. So I don't know for sure.
But worst case scenario, this actually removes one step for Derek. He doesn't have to seek approval to 60. He can actually build without having to come to he'll have to attend a planning board meeting to get the approval prior to coming in. He has to come back for every time he has a building, he's got to get a building permit and approval. But this removes one step from his process of having to seek approval at every time he looks to move forward on a project.
Are you aware of any potential businesses that have backed off because they felt they couldn't work within the 40%?
I don't think there's, not up in the Wing Farm, because no one's done anything up there, and the only part that has the road is Derek's, and we've developed 2 lots already, and sold another off. I think what it will do is there's interest in that it might develop up further in the pieces that are beyond their
Is the rest of
parcels.
the park privately owned?
Yeah,
Or is it down?
yeah. I believe
Jerry,
so.
you said that would reflect more what the city of Bath is.
Well, I haven't looked at the ordinance specifically, but if you just drive through the industrial park, it looks like, there's not much space left on those lots.
No.
Like they're built out to the max. I would think that they're right at the max, like way over 40%, way over 60%.
Yeah, because it's buildings and pavement, it's not just the sides of the building, it's the whole thing, so.
But the way it is now, that if you're 40 and you can go to 60, it gives you the opportunity to have more interchange with the purchaser and understand a little bit more where they're going, which might be a nice thing to get to know what the intent is.
Right,
Maybe I'm crazy, but there could be a lot of subterfuge involved too.
Yeah, and that happens naturally anyway through the whole process of getting their site developed and the approvals, and we ask tons of questions and have to know what they're doing and where they're doing it, where the utilities are going and that sort of thing, so. it's there, we can deny that waiver based on what type of work they're doing, or it's gonna be super loud for neighbors, or all that kind of thing. There's that option.
If the motion passes, what would be the procedure then if someone, or say the planning board, wants to get this back on track, just that one section?
I believe if this motion passes, this would not pass, and it'd be up to another town meeting.
Yeah, we could revisit it in the May or June, May, right, the May meeting.
I don't,
Prior hearings or not?
Yes, there would be here.
Yeah, there would have to be hearings and everything, it would just start all over again.
The
It
same
would just start
way.
over for the May meeting.
And how will that impact?
It wouldn't. He would just have to ask for a waiver when he comes to develop his lot, because he's at 40 and can only go to 60 with a waiver. But
Go ahead.
I wonder how the the board or the planning committee feels about the undeveloped area and how this would impact that. Do you have a vision of things filling it right up?
Well, I think that this actually, to me, it levels the playing field for anyone who's looking to develop that area. Because he can now, his plans allow him to go with approval from the planning board to 60%. And this would allow everyone to start at 60% with their progress and develop forward from that. And so there's, anything outside of Wing Farm potentially has the same playing field that he has at Wing Farm, which I think is, you want to create a standard. That's where it makes more fair.
The other land in that zone is absolutely undeveloped. I mean, the difference between Wing Farm and the rest of that is that the whole project involved building roads, putting in water lines, sewage, etc. So that's already there. Those lots would be the first to go, because you don't have to build a road. The development of the other part is a while coming.
Okay, but does the town have a vision of what it does and doesn't want?
The town is engaged in a comprehensive planning process.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why I've been hesitant about this is that we had discussion on the board about having all of the zoning ordinances and land use ordinances considered as a whole. And this is not, whereas the Wing Farm was already established. And there are basic guidelines for the urban development zone. There has not been discussion in recent years about the undeveloped land. And I don't even know who owns those pieces. They're all privately held. It's all privately held.
Yeah, so just to speak to what would be up there, the land use table has the different types of uses that can be in the urban development park. And some of these next amendments are to address that. And to the comment that it hasn't been discussed, I can tell you that in the planning board, we've spent, what was it, an hour and a half? And then there's been multiple meetings and multiple hearings and all of that. And so I guess I would say that it has been discussed. This has gone to legal counsel. They have said that this is fine and legal to put into the warrant. It's been through the selectmen. And it just seemed to the board, to us, that it was something that was really necessary to do up there to encourage others to want to develop up in the urban development park instead of in the middle of all of our business and commercial in between houses, really, so.
Yes.
I'm just wondering why it was written with a 40-60 limit in the first place, then, if it's so common to, okay.
I'm not even sure when that, we'd have to look back at all of them to see. If I had to guess, which I do, and I don't know, you were on the planning board for a long time, was that when you were on there?
Many years ago.
Yeah, it was forever ago.
But
The-
40 seems so restrictive for any sort of commercial activity that it seems like a number that wasn't realistic perhaps in the first place.
Right, so a big problem that we have in town is that our commercial is kind of, it's very intermingled with homes. So right here, you're sitting on commercial property. It goes from the street 250 feet back, there's houses right behind here, it's peppered everywhere, and that's kind of how our zoning is done. It's not like in Brunswick where they have an industrial zone, they have a commercial zone, and that's just what's in there. So I think those numbers were low, right? They would, to try to keep, you know, if you've got a 2-acre lot, you're not developing 1.9 acres, and you're right up against the fence, and your neighbor's right there, and being affected. I think that's where the 40/60 came from, and that's where we felt comfortable over in the urban development part, where there aren't residences, and it's up against another industrial park on one side, a power line on the other, and the highway on the third side, that expanding this to the 75 made sense.
So it would be removing a pretty inevitable inconvenience right now.
It's restrictive,
to
yeah.
approve this.
Yeah.
And could perhaps encourage further development with
Well,
the
it's
additional
not,
lots.
there's not that much of a hurdle to getting the waiver of the
For him,
business.
it's really for the rest.
Okay.
Yeah, but I
But
think we
anyone
need
can get the
to,
waiver to 60%.
I think one thing they need to realize, if this were my piece of property, and I think of things in the first person, I would want the ability to potentially put 75% of my 40-some-odd acres that are left. Say I want to do a solar farm, I need the maximum room to make it profitable. Otherwise, why would I do it? You know, it just doesn't work unless you can maximize your investment to produce profit, to pay tax, and, you know, develop an empty piece or whatever. It would seem to me as a landowner that I would want this to be able to develop it, to not be as restrictive. And it's not going to affect residents, it's in the urban development part.
Yeah, it's very isolated, so it made sense.
Any more discussion?
Sorry.
No? Speak up.
Well, I hear Madeline's question about doing it now when we're working on the comprehensive plan. Because when I came to the solar meeting, that was my issue too. Why are we considering changing zoning when we're working on a comprehensive plan? So somebody tell me why it needs to be done now instead of waiting. Please, okay.
Well, what I just heard is it could limit the number of.
But how disregard we
on
for
that property,
development?
on that property.
It's been, forever that area has not been developed. So how desperate are we for development?
I don't think it's a desperation, and so I'm on the comprehensive plan committee too.
Yes.
But I can tell you, just because something is written in the comprehensive plan, it doesn't make it so in the ordinances.
Right.
There was a note in there about in the commercial zone that you could do a house on every half acre kind of thing, and someone came in with condos and wanted to put 50 condos on 17 acres because it made sense in the comprehensive plan, but that doesn't mean it's in the ordinance and that they can do that. So just because it's in the comprehensive plan doesn't mean it's immediately going to get into the ordinances.
Right, but
So-
the discussion is important, and unfortunately, not so many people come to give their point of view, but,
Right.
yeah.
Any more discussion? Okay, we're going to vote on the motion to read the motion again, please.
Yes, please.
To postpone indefinitely.
So voting in favor of this, to clarify, is voting in favor of postponing indefinitely.
Does that just mean we can never bring this up again?
No, means that we're done.
Postpone indefinitely?
It means that it won't be brought up tonight, and it would basically be dead, and then we would have to redevelop an ordinance.
For another town.
Okay, just making sure.
So we're going to vote on the motion to postpone this indefinitely. All those in favor of postponing?
And
Article
please,
6.
I was gonna say, please keep your hands
Please
up
raise
so
your
I
hands
can
up.
vote, but it's a pretty easy count.
All those in favor of not passing the motion? A no vote. The no vote passes. So now we get to take a vote on Article 6. So an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use Ordinance regarding lot coverage and frontage standards for business, commercial, and non-commercial uses be enacted. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second?
Discussion. All those in favor of Article 6, please raise their hands. All those opposed? Article 6 passes. Article 7. Shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use Ordinance regarding the table of land uses for retail businesses and consumer services establishments be enacted? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion on Article 7. All those in favor? All those opposed? Article 7 passes. Article 8. Shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use Ordinance regarding the table of land uses for automotive service in open-air drive-in retail services / flea markets be enacted? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Discussion? Yes.
Would these open-air drive-in retail services and flea markets, would they be restricted to weekend activities?
There is no restriction on hours of operation.
So is there a traffic impact on that one?
There would be, yes. If someone wanted to come in and develop the lots, someone wanted to come in and develop the lot to have a flea market, the board at that point would investigate and look at traffic and that sort of thing, and the impact to the area. But again, everyone going in there comes through Bath to get to the Wing Farm, and honestly, they'll have to go in through that same road to get to any of the urban development part, the way that it's kind of landlocked, but.
That road is shared by Midcoast Maine Community Action, which I am associated with, and I'm just wondering if that's an impact on Head Start operations, United Way operations, and MCA operations.
It
By
may,
having excess traffic on that road.
correct, and that's one of the things that the planning board would look at that point, is having a traffic study. Felt that it needed, if it was something with that high of a traffic rate.
But weekends would solve that problem.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Any more discussion on Article 8? All those in favor of Article 8? All those opposed? Article 8 passes. Article 9. Shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use Ordinance regarding the table of land uses for automotive services and open-air drive-in retail services / sports facilities be enacted? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion, Article 9. Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 9? All those opposed? Article 9 also passes. Article 10. Shall an ordinance entitled 2022 Amendments to the Land Use Ordinance regarding the table of land uses for industrial, wholesale, and transportation uses be enacted? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Discussion on Article 10. Okay, all those in favor of Article 10? All those opposed? Article 10 passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second?
All those in favor, please. So be it. All right.
Wow.